What kind of a boy were you back?
Sorry?
What kind of a boy were you back in your childhood?
God, we're going that far back now.
The Big Bang.
I was an only child, for a start. And, what do you mean, like school? Studious, pretty studious.
Uh-huh.
And then I eventually started playing guitar as well, and, you know, that was basically it, you know.
I think the question was, were you a curious child or artistically inclined, or was you sports-minded? Or?
No, I certainly wasn't sports-minded at all. I was, far more, artistic, aesthetic.
Mm-hmm. When did you sort of awaken to that sort of sensibility?
I don't know. It was just a part of me, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Yoku
read a lot of books. Draw.
Yes, I read a lot of books. I drew as well, because in fact I went to art college as well after doing just my main studies through to like the first big set of exams, which is the GCE over there, and I did pretty well with those. But I left. I sort of. Well, actually, by the time I was approaching those exams and all the revision and all the hard work for it, I was actually doing gigs at the time with a band. And when I finished schooling, I went straight into going on the road in the back of a van and all this sort of thing, But I kept getting ill, so then I took on my other great love, which was art. So I went to art college and continued, obviously, to play guitar. And I was playing in an interval group at the Marquee Club in London, etc. So I was still playing all the way through.
Why did you keep getting ill?
I don't know. It's glandular fever. I've got a good idea. Probably because one wasn't eating properly, and a lot of coming off the stage. Because I used to perspire quite a bit, rain on stage basically. And I still do, and it was sort of getting in the back of the van, sleeping on the equipment, driving to the next gig. It's not really the best way to sort of carry on. And I used to get ill.
Do you recall what you were most strongly influenced by or inspired by when you were a boy? When you were young, like in your pre-musician days?
Musically, pre-musically.
I think it can include anything. It can be a book or a movie or a person or an event.
Salvador Dali, quite possibly. Yeah, Salvador Dali.
Do you remember how old you were at the time?
Oh, I don't know, about 10, something like that.
Like
his artwork, and then I started to read about him and found him quite fascinating.
What were you inspired by?
Well, his artwork, and also his sense of humour and his theatre.
There was a rumor going around for quite a while in Japan back in the halcyon days of Zeppelin that your mother was Japanese. There's no Japanese blood in your family, is there?
No, but I used to get teased at school. I used to say that I was a Japanese father, actually, then. And in fact, when I came here, people thought I had a Japanese wife. But in fact, I didn't, because I wasn't married. So it does figure, doesn't it? Japanese seems to figure with me somewhere.
This was I told him about your that you like Dali. He said, "Have you always been interested in surrealistic art?"
Yes, I was extremely, and Dada as well. But actually, my taste sort of matured towards pre-Raphaelites. Actually, I went back, but when I was at art college, I had it was rather disappointing because I wanted to learn the techniques of oil painting and glazing techniques, and they just there wasn't, to be perfectly truthful, there wasn't anybody there that did it. I mean, they'd all been to the Royal College, and they were, they'd had their one-man exhibition after the Royal College, usually two-man exhibition, and hadn't made it, and these were the tutors that you had, and they were really right up to what was happening at the moment, acrylics, etc., and using, whatever there was that was currently coming on the market, so to speak. And there just wasn't anyone that could teach you any old glazing techniques. So, but nevertheless, it was one of the most important parts of my education. I felt at art college.
So did you have to do that, or did you just give up on learning about glazing the pre-Raphaelites?
Well, no, my draftsmanship wasn't good enough, to be perfectly truthful with you. But nevertheless, I did pretty well at art college. So.
Are there any actual works that your like say favorite paintings or sculptures or anything? Any favorite works you have? Your personal favorites?
My own? No, I burnt all my work when I left art college.
You burnt them?
Yeah.
Was that a symbolic gesture?
Yes, it was. I do these sort of things, you see.
Right at the past.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, I mean, just for that, because you wanted to make a change.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So you rounded up all your favorite stuff.
Yeah.
Threw in the fireplace.
Yeah, basically because it wasn't that good, I suppose.
I see. Oh, your own stuff.
Yeah.
The question was about say famous stuff that you personally like.
Oh no, I'm not that much of a Philistine. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah,
for instance, I collect antiques and I do have quite a reasonable art collection. And for instance, if I've had some antique lamps and when they got broken, I felt terrible. One of them got broken, I just felt terrible because I felt, I was a curator for this thing. So you pass them on afterwards, don't you?
I think you just wanted the names of some of your favorites.
Okay. Well, I've got some works by Rossetti, Burne-Jones, Richard Doyle, who's a fairy painter, extremely intricate. So they're Victorian artists. Ernst Fuchs, who's an Austrian artist. Beauchard, who's a sort of hermetic artist. I can't give you a whole rundown of everything I've got.
Other surrealists also, like aside from Dali?
Oh yes. Max Ernst, for instance, Max Ernst.
Oh, Max Ernst.
Yeah. When I went to the Metropolitan Museum, there's a painting there by called Napoleon in the Wilderness, and I must have spent about 2 hours looking at that.
Is that right?
Yeah, fabulous painting. And Duchamp, Magritte.
When you first had that sort of encounter with Dali's stuff when you were like 10 years old, you said, I guess she's sort of awakened you to your interest in the surreal side.
Well, absolutely, it was, the surreal aspect of it, and it was a famous ones that might add. It was sort of the melting watches and the crutches, and it just stimulated my imagination.
He was wondering that seems to be like a common sort of theme that runs through the music you've done.
Yeah, quite.
Is that an apt observation, you think?
I think it's an extremely, fine observation. Yeah.
And I guess that would sort of link in with your interest in Aleister Crowley and the
I don't know why it would link in with it. I don't have any. I refute immediately any inference to the fact that I'm a black magician or have anything to do with black magic. However, I've read books and spent a lot of time reading books on mysticism of Eastern and Western traditions and comparative religions and then astrology, etc. Tarot. But because you read and study, for instance, astrology, it doesn't make you a black magician. But unfortunately, some critics and reviewers think you are.
I didn't think he was like accusing you.
I didn't say that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's the way it goes.
But it seems like you do have an interest in that type of thing, which is
sure. I've already told you that I also have read about the Pre-Raphaelites as well. For instance, I mean, I'm sure he doesn't want me to sit here and give my recommended reading list, but that's just a minor part of my, what I've read in my time and studied in my time.
So you said like you rounded up all your stuff and burned it one time. You said that your draftsmanship maybe wasn't up to par.
Yeah.
But it must have been like a very painful decision on your part to move away from painting or drawing, which is what you eventually did, right?
It wasn't so much. It wasn't so painful. It was just a sequence of events. I really enjoyed being at art college, and I enjoyed, doing what I was doing. But the reason for the ritual burning was for the very reason that, thank God there's no sort of Jimmy Page artwork appearing in Sotheby's auction rooms, and this is why I did it. Basically, I had some foresight. But what was happening was that I was playing in an interval band in a blues club, and this is in about 1963, 4, and I was asked to play on a record, on a session, and this record just managed to scrape into the charts, about number 20, And at this time the Stones were happening, and the Beatles were happening, and the sort of hardcore session musicians were all, quite old guys. And in fact, the youngest guitarist that they had there was about 3 years older than I was. And he wasn't really in touch with all the sort of blues roots and everything that these other bands that were happening were involved with. Whereas, I knew all this sort of stuff, and so it's pretty obvious what happened next. They said, "Who's this guitarist? And let's get him in on other records." And whereas to begin with I was maybe doing one session a week, which was probably my audition to see how I'd get on in it, this was then building and building and building till I was doing what they were asking me to do, ones in the daytime. I was doing the ones in the evening, okay. And I was having really good fun, as you can imagine, of playing with bands like them and all this sort of stuff. And we all know this bands that I played with, but it was with groups, and they were saying, just do a riff here and do a riff there and do a solo here, and it was great fun, because I really loved playing the guitar. And it just came to the point where I had to make a decision. And I knew really, I knew all the time the guitar was my first love, so, and that was it. So, and then once I left the art college, I was doing, 3 sessions a day, 6 days a week. So, and that's why I was on so many records in the 60s.
Yeah. So when you talk about sessions, were they mainly blues sessions? But you also mentioned them and.
Initially, it was with bands, and sort of being brought in with the bands, and then there were. As I say, you can imagine. What are we saying? I was doing at least 15. We'll say 16 sessions a week. It wasn't just with bands. I was doing things with orchestras as it went on. Obviously not initially, but after, say, for 6 months of doing this, I was playing on film tracks and folk sessions, for instance, with Burt Bacharach, film music and his albums and the singles when he did them in England. There was a complete variety, and by that point, I was starting to learn to read music, something which I hadn't done before. And it was really good, really basically from the studio discipline that evolved through that.
Mm-hmm. He asked a question there about blues, though. There weren't that many actual blues sessions.
Well, there weren't that many blues artists who came to England to record. Right. It's as simple as that. I played with Sonny Boy Williamson on one album, and Otis Spann, who was related to Muddy Waters. Those are the two that I can think of. Yeah.
エリック・クラプトン、ジェフ・ベック、ジミー・ペイジって
And a lot of coming off the stage, you know, because I used to perspire quite a bit, you know, rain on stage basically. And I still do, and it was sort of getting in the back of the van, sleeping on the equipment, driving to the next gig. You know, it's not really the best way to sort of carry on. You know, and I used to get ill.
Do you recall what you were most strongly influenced by or inspired by when you were a boy? When you were young, like in your
The van and all this sort of thing, you know. But I kept getting ill. So then I took on my other great love, which was art. So I went to art college and continued, obviously, to play guitar. And I was playing in an interval group at the Marquee Club in London, etc. So I was still playing all the way through.
Why did you keep getting ill?
I don't know. It's glandular fever. I've got a good idea. Probably because one wasn't eating properly. And
what kind of a boy were you back?
Sorry?
What kind of a boy were you back in your childhood?
God, we're going that far back, aren't we?
The Big Bang.
I was an only child, for a start. And, what do you mean, like school? Studious, pretty studious. And then I eventually started playing guitar as well, and, you know, that was basically it, you know.
I think the question was, were you a curious child or artistically inclined, or were you sports-minded? Or?
No, I certainly wasn't sports-minded at all. I was, you know, far more, you know, artistic, aesthetic.
When did you sort of awaken to that sort of sensibility?
I don't know. It was just a part of me, I suppose.
You read a lot of books?
Yes, I read a lot of books. I drew as well, because in fact I went to art college as well after doing just, you know, my main studies through to like the first big set of exams, which is the GCE over there, and I did pretty well with those, but I sort of, well, actually by the time I was at approaching those exams and all the revision and all the hard work for it, I was actually doing gigs at the time with a band, and when I finished schooling I went straight into, you know, going on the road in the back